feel like our story begins a lot like some married young couples. We were married for a few years and then we decided we wanted to have a family or start a family, try to start a family if we had the blessing to.
You're so excited and you're so hopeful. You have so many dreams and hopes for what you want your family to look like and be like.
We went in for our 20-week anatomy scan, find out if she's a boy or girl.
I can remember we were sitting in the doctor's office though, and it just took too long. The doctor came in and she said, "I need y'all to sit down." And she said, "I have some hard news for you."
We think we see her stomach next to her heart.
We learned that she had what was called congenital diaphragmatic hernia, so her diaphragm didn't fully develop, and so her intestines were crowding out.
They said that you can't really tell how bad it's gonna be until you just kind of journey along.
And you learn that 50% of babies that are born with CDH don't make it. And so you learn that, and it's devastating. August 3rd rolls around and she's like, I'm going into labor.
We went to the hospital around 2 a.m. and then she was here by like 10:30.
And she lets out one really beautiful cry.
Which I was actually encouraged by because we were told you may hear silence when she comes.
One gasp, one breath, and then nothing.
The Dell Children's transport team got there and they were wonderful.
But I'm sitting there and I'm having to kiss my wife goodbye, and I'm having to chase 10 doctors and nurses out of the room and watch them clean my baby up and put a breathing tube down her throat, and just that moment was so challenging.
Scott gets in the ambulance with Davy. They all head over to Dell.
I remember those first couple nights just not knowing whether my little girl was gonna live or die, right? And you're sitting there and those are hard first few nights, It can go from like this beautiful moment to a moment of terror where you're just looking at her and she's looking at you and she's going, "You're my dad, like why are you," and she's afraid and she's like, "Why are you allowing this to happen to me?" And you're going, "No, you don't understand, like I'm putting you in the best place that I can as your dad. There is no better place for you where you can be to actually give you a chance to live."
About 5 weeks old, she made a complete shift for her. And she got well enough for them to do surgery. Her surgeon didn't want to operate until she was well enough to get through it. She goes to surgery on 100% oxygen, but no nitric, nothing else. And then she comes back on 60% O2. And so everyone was kind of blown away. They couldn't believe this is kind of the Davy we were seeing because she'd been so ill and had taken so long to get to surgery. She never got worse, she only got better.
Dr. Kelly and Dr. M and Dr. Herman and all of them together, and they're dreaming about how do we get you home.
And they called it Project Davy. The NICU at Dell Children's was just wonderful, and the entire hallway was lined with all of our friends who were RTs and nurses and doctors who we got to know for almost 5 months, just crying as we were leaving. It felt wonderful and hard at the same time.
I have a hard time articulating what my experience with Dell Children's was because it was so amazing. I mean, it's a place you never want to have to be, but it's a place you are so glad for when you have to have it, right? I mean, it's one of those things that I called it the paradox because you don't want to have to be there, but you're really grateful that it is there.
Looks really different now back at home than it did when we first brought her. It still consists of probably 1 or 2 doctor's appointments every week on average. She still sees about 3 or 4 specialists. She also has 3 different therapies 5 times a week. They come in our home, which is really, really great.
She just had her first bite of saltine cracker, and so she was able to chew it up and actually swallow it, which is just such a huge deal. Things that you take for granted as a parent that you just watch other kids do naturally.
She's getting to actually almost function as a normal kiddo at 16 months. There are times she's not attached to a feeding pole and an electrical outlet. She actually gets to be free. And we're working on walking. And the fact that she's getting to do that when she laid in a hospital bed for almost 5 months is really miraculous.
My dream is for her to live abundantly. That's what I want for her, is the abundant life, the one that's filled with the good things of life. I didn't know if I was gonna have a life with you. And now I do.